Southern California, Las Vegas, Nevada, and Phoenix, Arizona is home to about 25 million Americans. And East Texas, home to Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, and Austin, have an additional 25 million. But this vast area in between, only about 7 million people call this area home, or about 2% of the entire United States population. So why do so few Americans live in the empty Southwest? Welcome to another episode of Geography by Geoff. Today we're continuing with our Empty Region series by doing a deep dive into the southwestern United States. Because if you look just to the east and west of this region, there are a lot of people in much smaller areas. And this begs the question, if there are so many people living just to the east and west of this region, then what's going on here? And don't worry, we are about to find out. But first, this week's podcast episode is all about the geography of air conditioning, one of the key ingredients to make this region specifically more livable. With Phoenix, Arizona hitting 110 degrees or more for 54 days this past summer, the city would not have been able to grow as it has without this little invention. So suffice it to say, air conditioning has a fascinating geography behind it. You can listen to the episode right after this video by clicking this link or by checking out the description below. The empty Southwest is a vast expanse of the American Southwest. And at the heart of this region's geography is the stark and rugged beauty of its desert landscape. The Chihuahuan Desert extends into Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona, presenting a vast ecosystem of shrubs and desert grasslands. This desert supports unique wildlife and plant species adapted to the extreme heat and arid conditions, including the iconic saguaro cactus and the elusive roadrunner. Moving north, the topography shifts to southern Utah, where the Colorado Plateau rises with its high deserts and deep canyons. Here, the geography is dramatic, with the sculpted landscapes of Zion, Bryce Canyon, and the vast expanse of the Canyonlands National Parks. These areas are characterized by their striking rock formations, arches, and red rock vistas that attract visitors from around the world. Southern Colorado's geography is dominated by the Southern Rocky Mountains, where high elevations give way to alpine forests and meadows. The San Juan Mountains and the Rio Grande National Forest are part of this mountainous terrain, offering a stark contrast to the surrounding desert areas. Transitioning eastward, the geography includes the western end of the Great Plains in Kansas and Oklahoma. This region, characterized by rolling grasslands and wide open skies, has a history of supporting large herds of bison and is a critical area for agriculture due to its fertile soils. Water sources in this region are both scarce and life-sustaining, with the Rio Grande serving as a vital river that flows through New Mexico and along the border of Texas. This river and other smaller water systems provide critical irrigation for agriculture and are central to the survival of many communities and ecosystems. The empty Southwest is also an area of significant geological activity. The Rio Grande Rift is a major geological formation indicating the presence of tectonic activity that has shaped the land over millions of years. Additionally, the region's geography includes numerous dormant and extinct volcanic fields, such as the Valles Caldera in New Mexico, illustrating its fiery past. Human intervention has also shaped the geography, with large-scale irrigation projects like those along the Rio Grande and the Hoover Dam in nearby Nevada. These projects have transformed desert areas into arable land and have provided essential water supplies to burgeoning cities. Climate change poses new challenges to this region's geography, with increased temperatures, altered precipitation patterns, and the potential for more severe droughts impacting both natural ecosystems and human activities. The empty Southwest geography is a mixture of arid deserts, mountainous terrains, and Great Plains, reflecting a history of environmental adaptation. And as we're about to find out, adapting to this specific environment has proven to be a huge challenge, even for today's technology. But first, if you're enjoying this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button. More fun geography videos are just a single click away. Prior to the current states that make up the empty Southwest, the earliest inhabitants of the region were complex societies such as the ancestral Puebloans, known for their cliff dwellings and intricate communities, particularly in present-day Arizona, New Mexico, and southern Utah. The Navajo and Apache peoples arrived later, first migrating from the northwestern regions of the continent before settling in the region we know today. The Pueblo peoples, descendants of ancestral Puebloans, established their communities along the Rio Grande and its tributaries, with agriculture as the central aspect of their culture. The Ute and Comanche tribes dominated the mountainous regions and the plains, respectively. Spanish explorers, seeking riches and the expansion of their empire, were the first Europeans to make contact with these indigenous peoples. The Spanish colonization began in earnest with the arrival of conquistadors in the 1500s, followed by missionaries who sought to convert the native populations to Christianity. This period saw the establishment of Santa Fe in 1610, one of the oldest continuously settled cities in the United States. This makes Santa Fe older than New York City, Boston, Philadelphia, or many of the cities we associate as being the original cities of the country. While the Spanish introduced new animals such as horses as well as new agricultural practices, this period of time was mostly characterized by conflict with the indigenous tribes. The Spanish not only brought diseases that wiped out many tribes, but also instituted a feudal-like encomienda system that demanded labor and allegiance from the native peoples. Following the decline of Spanish power, the region came under Mexican control after Mexico's War of Independence in the early 1800s. During this time, the Santa Fe Trail became a significant trade route, opening up the region to U.S. economic interests. Due to increased trade, U.S. interest in the area grew, leading to increased tensions and eventually the Mexican-American War, which Mexico would lose. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo in 1848 resulted in Mexico ceding a vast portion of the Southwest to the United States. This acquisition, along with the Gadsden Purchase of 1853, set the stage for American settlement and the carving out of new territories within the empty Southwest. The U.S. colonization period was marked by the establishment of forts, increased settlement, the displacement of native tribes onto reservations, and the search for resources like gold and silver. Railroads expanded into the region, facilitating further migration and economic development. From these territories, the modern states of Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Colorado, and parts of Kansas and Oklahoma were formed. Arizona and New Mexico were the last to achieve statehood in 1912. Each state's path to statehood was unique, influenced by political, economic, and social factors, including the Civil War, like the influence of the Mormon Church in Utah and the cattle and oil industries in Texas and Oklahoma. But despite the empty Southwest being comprised of the entire state of New Mexico, half of Texas and Arizona, and parts of Utah, Colorado, Kansas, and Oklahoma, the entire area maintains as a very sparsely inhabited region. The empty Southwest does not have a high population, particularly when compared to the bustling urban centers of Southern California, the Phoenix metropolitan area, and eastern Texas. In fact, while the area comprises about 420,000 square miles of land area, or 15% of all land in the lower 48, it is home to just 7 million people, or about 2% of the total population of the country, less than the single city of Dallas, Texas. But there are very valid reasons why few Americans would make this area their home. First and foremost, the climate of the empty Southwest plays a significant role. Much of the empty Southwest is desert or semi-arid, with extreme temperatures that can be inhospitable to sustained human development. The blistering heat of the summer months is of course very tough to endure, but unlike Phoenix, Arizona, much of this region also happens to be at a high elevation, which means it also gets extremely cold. These climate extremes require robust infrastructure and resources to make the area livable, such as air conditioning and heating, which can drive up the cost of living as compared to some places like San Diego, which experiences moderate temperatures year-round. Water scarcity is another critical factor. The region is home to some of the most arid landscapes in North America, with limited access to reliable water sources. Major rivers like the Rio Grande are the lifeblood for certain areas, but they are not ubiquitous across the entire region. And where the Phoenix metro area is able to draw from the Colorado River by way of extensive aqueducts, cities within the empty Southwest are not able to do the same with the Rio Grande. Despite its name, the Rio Grande has an average discharge of only 2,400 cubic feet of water per second, compared to the Colorado River's average of 22,500 cubic feet per second. This scarcity impacts agriculture, industry, and residential needs, limiting the growth potential of large populations. But while environmental conditions are considerable, historically, the area has been difficult to settle due to organized resistance and warfare of the indigenous tribes of the area, primarily the Comanche. During the mid-1800s, the Comanche tribe fought fiercely against the Spanish, Mexican, and eventually U.S. armies to protect their homeland Comancheria. This continued warfare effectively slowed settlement in the region during a time when the United States was desperately pushing people to move west. Finally, in terms of the economy, the region has traditionally been dominated by industries such as oil, mining, and agriculture, which do not require large labor forces like those in manufacturing or services. As a result, there has been less economic incentive for people to move to the area, Additionally, the economic opportunities in urban centers like Southern California, Phoenix, and Eastern Texas, with their diverse economies that include technology, manufacturing, and entertainment, have drawn populations away from the empty Southwest. Today, the largest city in the empty Southwest would be Albuquerque, New Mexico, with about 955,000 people within its metropolitan area. This would be followed by El Paso, Texas, with about 868,000 people, and finally Amarillo, Texas, with about 270,000 people. Santa Fe, the second oldest city in the United States and the only capital in the empty Southwest, is home to just 155,000 people. But while all of this might make sense, if we look south into Mexico, we see many more larger cities in conditions just as severe. The proximity of larger Mexican cities such as Juarez, Chihuahua, and Hermosillo to the southern border of the empty Southwest region of the United States presents a stark contrast in urban density as compared to the sparseness of the empty Southwest. Several factors contribute to the presence of these populous centers in Mexico, despite the similar arid climate and geographic challenges found on both sides of the border. Historically, the pattern of colonization in Mexico favored the establishment of urban centers as administrative, economic, and religious hubs. The Spanish colonial model revolved around cities as the centers of power, with the establishment of central plazas, cathedrals, and government buildings. This tradition continued after Mexico's independence, with cities retaining their status as focal points for political and economic activity. Meanwhile, the US was far more focused on resource extraction and agriculture, with the movement of goods back east rather than the establishment of core cities in the West. Furthermore, northern Mexican cities have been strategic sites for trade and manufacturing. The implementation of the Maquiladora program, which established factories near the border, has been a significant factor in urban growth. These factories attract workers from across Mexico and have turned northern cities into bustling economic centers. These cities often act as gateways for trade between Mexico and the United States, further enhancing their economic status and encouraging population growth in ways that U.S. cities don't necessarily feel. It's for this reason that we see the city of Juarez with a population of over 2.5 million in its metro region, Chihuahua with about 1 million, and Hermosillo with about 900,000 people, all of which are larger or about as large as the empty Southwest's largest metro region, Albuquerque. The empty Southwest is a wonderful part of the world, both majestic and eerily empty. Those who have driven through it can attest to the vast amount of empty space. Despite this, millions of Americans have made this region their home, and for them, well, there's nothing quite like it anywhere else in the world. I hope you enjoyed learning more about America's empty Southwest. If you did, please subscribe to my channel. If you want to listen to the podcast, you can do so here. And if you want to watch more of my videos, click here. Thanks for watching. See you next time.